Welcome to the Win, Make, Give podcast. Chad Hyams here, flying solo-ish. That's right, it's not a monologue. You know that when I'm flying solo, I bring a great guest. Solo means no Bob, folks. Have you noticed a trend lately? We go about 3 episodes, Bob goes missing. We go about 3 episodes, Bob goes missing. I think he's trying to send me a message. Folks, I'm looking for a co-host that shows up every 3rd week then to replace Bob. So if you're interested, come into our Facebook group. You know it, Win, Make, Give. Send me a comment, right? Chad, I'll replace Bob any day of the week. Believe me, folks, I'm not that easy to work with, though. Bob deals with a lot. Now, if you are listening to Win, Make, Give, that means you have heard us bring you things about health, wealth, leadership, and legacy for years now. Yeah, we are pre-COVID. That's how long Win, Make, Give has been going. Yet over the years, folks, we have expanded, and I challenge you to go to winmakegive.com, where you can find a list of all the podcasts in our podcast network. Go check one of our other podcasts out. If you haven't read my book, Achieve Your Apex, or you aren't listening to it on Audible, follow along on the Achieve Your Apex podcast. If you want something daily, you need something every single day. Brian Gubernick's No Days Off podcast, powerful messages. We've got great things in all of the different podcasts for you. Check them out, winmakegive.com. Now that the commercial's over, I'm going to dive into today's episode. And I'm almost sad Bob's not here because it's going to be health focused, right? It's not wealth. It's not leadership. It's not legacy. Screw that. Yeah, it's leadership. Yeah, it's going to absolutely be legacy. And folks, your wealth improves with your health. They go together. So yeah, it does fit all of it, yet it's going to have the health lean that I always love Bob Stewart to make sure he's hearing about, because Bob put down the Cinnabon and get back into the recording studio. Today, instead, I will be joined by my new friend, and hopefully yours by the end of this podcast. That's Stephen Langer. Stephen, welcome to the Win, Make, Give podcast.
Thanks, Chad. Appreciate being here. I love that you're trash talking Bob. Recently on an episode, you were talking about the Dairy Queen hits, and as much as I'm a wellness guy, that's my guilty pleasure. So I'm on Team Bob for that one.
But what's the order at Dairy Queen for you then? Is it the Blizzard? Is it you got the fries? What is it?
It's the catered Blizzard. It's the mint Oreo add cheesecake.
Ooh, mint Oreo add cheesecake.
Oh yeah, you're gonna do it so big, right?
Part. Okay. All right, folks, we want to hear yours. Come on, what's your Dairy Queen Blizzard order? Come into the Facebook group. I'm going to make a post about it, and let's hear yours. Mint Oreo, absolutely mine on the runaway. Now, folks, Steven's from north of the border. So if you hear him say words funny, understand, right? He's north of the border. He made it clear to me, though, that there is a G in his last name. It's Langer, but it could be just Langer, right? But it's not Langer, right? Because he was not French. We want you to all understand he's in the middle of the country there, folks, up north of the border. Edmonton, correct?
Edmonton is correct, just north of the Rocky Mountains, which many of your guests will probably know well about. So,
well, hopefully they'll know about the Rocky Mountains.
Oilers and home of Connor McDavid.
Oh, okay. Now I don't know how this podcast is going being a Leafs fan over here. Don't know if we want to continue on that path. All right, Stephen, do me a favor. Introduce yourself. I don't read bios. I want you to introduce yourself to our audience. Let them know who they're going to hear from today with me.
Thanks, Chad. Appreciate it. Yeah, my name is Stephen Langer. I am the founder of Well by Design. My focus is on organizational wellness and building healthy workplace cultures. There are so many people that are burning out, that are stressed and anxious, and that are just pushing so much complexity within their lives. And my goal is to tackle that and to find a real and authentic way forward. So I do keynote speaking around the world. I focus heavily in with organizations, either doing leadership or full staff workshops, retreats, as well as staff training. And then I actually dive deep into organizations, helping them to figure out what's going really well, where they can improve, and how I can make a strategic plan focused on wellness. Because at the end of the day, your wellness does lead to your productivity.
Yeah, nobody. I have not met anybody who gets into the wellness industry because they just decide they're going to go into the wellness industry. What was it? What was the moment? What was the experience? What was going on in your life? I could see he's actually turning colors like, oh, crap. He asked that question. What was it, Stephen, that brought you into the wellness and said, I'm going to solve this for everybody else?
You know, I've always been the kind of guy that says if you're going to talk about something in a way that you think it could be done better, then prove it. And so, yeah, my experience was crazy. It was in the height of COVID, times when nobody was allowed in your home. My wife and I decided to take our kids skating. They were 3 and 5 at the time, and we were doing fine. We're crushing it. I was in the education sector, having a good job. Things were going well. And in an instant, she fell and broke both of her wrists. So now imagine what you're doing with one of your wrists at one point in time during the day or night, anytime. And now imagine you can't do that with a 3 and a 5-year-old running around. So hero dad that I am, hero father, hero husband, I'm trying to get in there and do everything and take care of it because I got this. I've always been, I got this kind of guy. And so I neglected to pay attention to the pain in my stomach that I thought was an ulcer. Turns out it wasn't an ulcer. It was my appendix had ruptured, gone beyond septic to necrotic. I'm rushed to the hospital, almost lost my life because I'm trying to be hero father, and now I'm in the hospital for 6 days. So we went from like, let's go skating as a family to, my God, we cannot survive this. It took a long time for me to recover from that. And I realized through that period of time that honestly, what we are doing is not working. Work life balance is bullshit. We are trying to chase things for whatever reason that I don't know. And there's got to be a better way to do it. And so I set out to prove it.
Okay, so the lesson from today's episode is stop skating, right?
Yeah,
Just stay inside
right.
when it's cold outside.
Who are us Canadians that go play hockey, right? You know what's great? She's back on the ice and she's crushing it.
There you go. All right, there you go. So right back at it. That's the other lesson. Get back up on the horse. Okay, so wow, right? That should be in the information that was sent over to me before, like this guy did this. You almost lost your life being a hero to other people and attempting to take on so much. I remember reading a while back that work-life balance was the most Googled search for a very long period of time. Yet we know our friend Jay Papasan and Gary Keller in the book, The One Thing, talk about that. It is a lie. Work-life balance does not exist. Talk about this term work-life balance for us a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. Honestly, I think it starts with nobody thinks it's going to happen to them until it does. We all think we can push through. We've always pushed through before. And so why would it be different this time? And that's what I thought. And so, of course, I'm going to push through and support my wife and my kids. And I'm still going to work from home and I'm going to do all the things. And you neglect your own self because it's so much easier to care for everybody else than it is to take care of yourself in a time when you need to, until it's too late. And so there's the classic saying, when you have your health, you can have 1,000 wishes, but when you don't, you have one. You want to get back to being healthy, right? So I learned that the hard way. That's why I set out to do what I do. This idea of work-life balance, like we've been chasing it for 40 years. It started out as work-life conflict. Then that became this taboo term. So let's call it work-life balance so that it sounds more optimistic. But let's examine it for what it is. You honestly think that you could put your life and your work on opposite ends of a scale and find equilibrium and find balance? It doesn't work that way. It's way too complex. There's more things that are going on. Your life is get your kids off to their activities, go buy your groceries, got to plan the vacation that you want to go on, but it's so hard to take the time off. You got the work before and the work after. And then you've got all the things around wellness and all the things around taking care of your home. It's not life and work. And it's not a 40-hour work week anymore. So this idea of trying to balance it out, it's impossible. And so you end up in this reactive state where you're trying to chase it all the time, right? You're like, ah, shit, I didn't make it this week. Now I've got to catch up. And so you try to catch up back the next week and you feel, frustrated that you didn't do it again. You're frustrated that you can't match this. And the reality is you're chasing something that isn't going to be there too. And if you magically find it, you don't want to touch anything, right? Because then you're like, I'm going to throw it out of kilter again.
Yeah, and that never happens, right? Your 3-year-old doesn't throw it out of kilter for you, or your boss throws it out of kilter for you. There's no way you stay there. Okay, let's stay on the individual first, Stephen, before we get into leaders and where this comes in, and organizations and where this comes in. What should we do? I mean, we're not going to find work-life balance. We're all looking for it. It's not out there. What can we do instead, or can we do differently so that we have a sustainable work life, not balance? I don't know what the term would actually be there. What's your take on what can I do as a person to just have a healthier, better life, not worrying about that work-life balance that doesn't exist?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of different theories out there, a lot of different ideas. One that I've been really pushing forward that I think has it really resonates with me and it seems to resonate with others is work-life coherence. And so this
Oh, I
idea of
like that.
coherence is
Yeah.
that it
Say
fits
that
together
again.
and work-life coherence,
Yeah. Okay.
right? So work-life coherence means that it fits together and it makes sense. So it's not about 50-50. It's not about trying to chase it and balance it. It's a recognition that there's give and take within your work sphere. So instead of looking at it like a balance scale, we got to look at it like the seesaw. Remember that when you were a kid, you get on the seesaw and you're going up and down and up and down. And so some weeks, yeah, you're going to be up and you're going to be working harder. The goal is that you don't stay there. You come back down and it's a flow, right? Nobody sits on the seesaw at 50-50 is like, this is awesome, right? Like, this is what we were talking about. You want the flow, right? And we've all been there too when you're with the guy who's bigger than you or older than you, and they sit down and you're stuck up at the top and you can't get down, right?
Right.
That's the work life imbalance that many of us face, and we're trapped in that space. And that's not how it's meant to be either. It's meant to be a flow rather than chasing it 50-50 where it works. It makes sense. There's give and take. We're building in that space for it. The reality is that I don't think a lot of us create space for complexity, and complexity inevitably happens, right? You talk about having kids and all the things, your car breaks down in the house, the furnace, whatever, right? Your wife falls and breaks both of her wrists. Complexity happens. So you need space for it so that when it happens, you're able to account for it. And that's just that proactive mindset as opposed to a reactive work life balance shift.
Ah, there we go. Covey's 7 habits, right? Number one being proactive, hit right there. And I love that you're talking about, leaving that. I always teach people that I just call that chaos. Chaos is going to show up, right? You've got to have that in your world ready to go, or the space to be able to put it when it does show up, because it actually is a lot more controllable than we think. What a great analogy, though, with that seesaw, teeter totter, right? Depending where you're
Yeah.
from and what you want to call it. Because we've all been in that position where we're the kid stuck up top because there's some bigger kids sitting on the bottom. And then that kid gets off and we fall like crazy. Or we've been the bigger kid and we're like, well, if I jump, right? And you're right. If it's just balanced at 50, that's boring, right? That'd be pretty cool to actually see it, but we'd be bored on our ride. We like going up and down. I think that's a great analogy, Steve, that you're pulling to help us. And that we need to be ready and have that space for the complexities that are going to show up, because, chaos is coming no matter what. Okay, let's jump to a leadership position. I've got tons of entrepreneurs and leaders who are listening to the conversation. Wellness in the workplace. Let just define what that even means. What is wellness in the workplace?
I mean, it takes so many different stances depending on the type of organization that you have. Because I genuinely believe that each organization has a pulse in that way and it needs to be spoken in that way. At the core, we need to mention that it talks about psychological safety, trust, health. Like, you got to feel safe in the place that you're at. You can't be having a toxic workplace. When you're in those types of spaces, innovation dies. And you can see it in so many different ways and you can adjust it in so many different ways. But at the core, people genuinely need to feel like they belong and they need to feel like they're valued. Right. And so there's studies out there now that loneliness in the workplace is creeping in at 1/3 of our staff. Right.
Wow.
And loneliness has the ability. There was a meta-analysis done in 2015, and it showed that the the impact on loneliness is the same as smoking 15 packs of cigarettes a day. And so it actually has the ability to shorten your life. Right. So, we're talking about belonging in the workplace and connecting and those types of things. So that's the first thing. That's at the core.
Hang on. I want to jump in and ask. You said that study was from 2015,
Mhm.
and I'm not referring to that saying that, wow, that's old. That's 10 years ago already. I'm saying that's pre-COVID. So that's got nothing to do with the loneliness of
Mhm.
we were forced to all lock ourselves in our house. That was a study that was going on before we even
Yeah.
got to the whole pandemic.
Yeah. And it showed that chronic loneliness has a 26% increased risk of mortality. So we're not talking about like, oh, you're lonely in the workplace and you feel bad. No, we're talking about you don't feel like you belong and you're disconnected and disengaged. When your people don't feel like they're aligned to the vision, when they don't feel like they're connected to the work that's going on, and when they don't feel like they have a voice in that space, they're not going to be actively engaged in what's going on. And therefore, you lose the productivity.
Okay. Interesting.
So
How
that's like the
much
start of it, right?
how much worse do you think COVID made it? I mean,
Oh,
I can't imagine that the studies have any results that have been done, but do you think we became even more lonely because now we were so many people still work from home and don't have that interaction, and because society changed so much? Or do you think we've learned to cope with it more because we had to?
I think both. I think it's different as well. I think a lot of organizations are now going hybrid, and a lot of people are working remotely. There's
Right.
so many ways that that we can connect, right, through all the different Slack channels and Teams and all the different modes that we can connect. But at the same time, there is something to be said for true, authentic connections. One of the things that I like to say in my keynotes is, we all talk about AI and how AI is going to change the workforce, right? Artificial intelligence coming in. There's so much that you can do with AI,
Yeah,
and I
I'm
love
not
playing
real.
with AI,
Yeah, I'm not really
right?
here. This
There
is
you
AI,
go,
right?
right?
Yeah, good talk.
But the reality is that I think the AI that people need to focus on is authentic interactions, right?
Oh,
Actually genuinely
look at you
connecting and having
turning the
authentic
AI into meaning
interactions.
something
Boom,
else.
right? Okay, but you know what's awesome is that on my slide deck, the ironic thing is that I built the slide using AI. So, I think there's a place for it at the same time, but I genuinely think that connecting in the workplace is huge.
So define an authentic interaction. Your take on what AI really means. What does that mean? Does that just mean on Monday morning I say to the guy beside me, "Hey, did you see the football game?" Or "Hey, did you see the Leafs last night?" Or I mean, what is an authentic interaction?
Yeah, I mean, that's part of it. That's all part of building camaraderie and figuring out who you're in the trenches with. And that's essentially what you're trying to do is build that trust and that idea that you are in this together. You're trying to bring humanity into the space. And so one of the things that I love is when you can actually understand who people are and get that going. So yeah, have the casual conversations, but also as a leader, stop by and just ask like, "Hey, how are you doing?" And don't follow that up with, "Okay, what I need from you today is." Because as soon as you follow it up with a request, now the pleasantries mean nothing. But if you actually check in on someone and say, "Hey, how are you? How are things? How can I help? How's your workload?" Um, then you can actually and like step away. That kind of a conversation builds trust, builds buy-in, right? One of the best ways for an organization to build trust is to volunteer together. So think about it.
Volunteer, like to go paint
Yeah.
someone's house. I mean, clean the street. I mean, that kind of volunteer. You mean?
Volunteer in your community. Yeah, volunteer in your community, and the best way to do it is to give your staff the opportunity to connect on that. So, hey, Chad, it's your turn. What do you want to volunteer for this quarter? And so, one afternoon, or however we want to allocate our time this quarter, we're going to go do what Chad wants to do. Now, think about that. We get to learn about Chad. We get to see what you're passionate about. We get to understand a little bit more about where your value systems lie, and when the rubber hits the road, we realize Chad's a human being and cares about things and has a story to tell. And meanwhile, Chad sees his entire staff dedicated to volunteering for something that he cares about. His heart's going to be full. He's totally going to be bought in, right? And there's stats that show that when teams volunteer together, retention goes up 82%.
Folks, go listen to that again. Not to hear that I'm actually human and that I had the heart part. That's important. Yeah, to just go
Bob,
back
did
and
you hear that part?
yeah, Bob, were you listening to this one? Right? To be able to go back and realize what a powerful way to bring your team together by having that activity once a quarter, dedicating a few hours or a day or whatever it might be to some charitable donation opportunity selected by different members of your team. That's fantastic. That's a great tip. Do you have any other tips for quick, easy, and I want the shortcut, right? But for quick, easy ways to build trust and build rapport with people, do you have any simple tips, lessons everybody should learn? Like ask these 3 questions and boom, rapport will be this much stronger or something along those lines.
That's where it comes to for each organization, it is so different because if you're an in-person place or you're not in-person place, for leaders, you can't be, even if you're like remote, you can't be the last person in, first person out. The best time to connect with someone is in the meeting before it starts or after the meeting when it's already finished. Those are the opportunities that you get to actually connect. And the other thing I'll say is ask. Just take the time to ask the question because so many times leaders assume things are going well when there's an undercurrent or a bubble that you can solve with very minimal cost or impact. And so here's an example. I was working with the client and They said they had their employee assistance program. We don't need to ask about that. Everybody knows we have it. So I was like, great, let's ask. And what we found when we surveyed their staff was that only 60% of their staff knew that they had it. 0% of their staff had ever accessed it. And 80% of their staff were saying that they wanted more formalized wellness supports in the workplace. So simply by asking that question, we found out a core nugget about how we could clear the way and support the team. And it cost them nothing other than promotion.
Interesting. Okay. Define another word for me. Burnout. How do you define burnout? What's your definition, Stephen, of burnout?
I mean, it's complex, but I'll say this: it's a misalignment to your values, and that causes you to be drained beyond your repair. And so I don't think it's necessarily just working all the hours and working till you're exhausted. There's good tired, right? And sometimes I'm putting in 60-hour, 80-hour weeks and I'm crushing it and loving it, right? But I can't do that in perpetuity. That's not realistic. But I think when you're doing things where there's either conflict that is draining you or a misalignment for what your role is to what you're really good at or what you're really passionate about, where you just don't have the opportunity to have a voice and there's that misalignment, those are the things that really lead to burnout in my mind.
Okay. So we're talking with Stephen Langer. We're not close to done. I'm just taking this opportunity to let you know, if you want to connect with Stephen, he says the best place to find him is LinkedIn. Stephen Langer, just like it sounds, with a V, not a PH, so that you can find him. Or you can go to his website. I want to say his website, and because in the almost 500 episodes we've done, Stephen, I don't know that I've been able to say go to his website, wellbydesign.ca. Yeah. Right? I don't think I've promoted a website that's not .com, but north of the border, folks, .ca. Check out Well by Design. You'll be able to connect with Stephen in either of those areas. Okay. So you just defined burnout for me. You've defined wellness for me. With the focus on wellness, I mean, it's one of those hot topic terms, right, that everybody likes to throw around. Why are so many people still burning out? I mean, forget the second part, I want to ask you, which is what can we do about it? But just why do we have so much burnout with so much of a focus on this buzzword of wellness?
Yeah, I think it's because wellness is a buzzword, and you've heard about it all the things that you can do. And, we do our little PD and then we think, why didn't that fix everybody? And why aren't they all coming back? We've got our fruit in the break room. And we've got our Friday afternoons off every third week, whatever we do, all those things. And I think people are genuinely trying, and teams are genuinely trying to implement authentic things into the workspace to bring their teams forward. But the trick is, a lot of times we're missing the mark because we don't take the time to dig deep into what's really going on in the workspace and figure out what's actually happening. And so we can do all those programs, we can do all the things, but what's it like in the workspace for your staff to come in every day? How do you clear their way? How do you clear the way for them to be able to do their work well? Now, I like to say this as a Canadian. So one of the things is, hey, I'm willing to shovel the walkway to give you a space to walk, but I'm not going to plow your streets, right? A lot of times people say, what's wellness, right? Like it's just going to be a Christmas wish list and you're going to have to give everything. No, right? I'll help you. If there's something I can do to clear the way for you to do good work, I will help you and I'll shovel the walkway, but I am not plowing the road for you too, right? You got to step up. You have to take ownership. Work's hard. It's supposed to be hard. It's work, right? And by the end of the day, we're not going to be skipping through fields of flowers on our way to work. But we're trying to find a way.
Not if we're having to shovel because there's no flowers.
Pay for that. Right? But we're trying to find a way to make it optimal for people so that they're working at a sustainable level, so that they can actually have some energy to go home at the end of the day and enjoy life, because I feel like we're entitled to that. And oftentimes I think the reason that we're still burning out is because we take care of ourselves last. We just keep pushing. We're pushing for the next promotion. We're pushing for the next job. Our boss says we need to keep working. We've got too much going on at home, and we're just trying to keep packing it in. So that idea of coherence is that idea that you have to recognize there's only so much of you to go around. And if you keep putting more and more on, it's either it's your workload, your home, and your health. And so if you keep packing more into your workload and your home, it comes at the expense of your health.
Interesting. Okay. Now, I want you to understand that 80% of our listeners are Googling what plowing and shoveling and all that stuff talking about. They don't understand if they didn't live in certain areas of the country where you get snow the way Steven definitely has snow where he is up there in Edmonton. You can be sure that's worse than anywhere here in the United States is seeing. Okay. Now that you've told us about wellness, you've told us about burnout, what can and should leaders specifically do? Are there some steps they can take? Are there some specific actions they can do that every leader should look at adopting to help their employees, teammates, partners get this coherence at a better level so that they have the wellness and not the burnout?
Yeah, I think there's a few good things. In particular, one is deep work. You talk a lot
Deep
about people
work?
just,
Like, is that what you said?
yeah,
Deep
like
work? Okay.
deep quality time for good work. So think about an average day for someone. They've got meetings every 45 minutes and they've got someone coming into their office and interrupting them, or they're getting phone calls and you're constantly being distracted. So you get 45 minutes between one meeting to the next. What do you do with that 45 minutes? Go to the bathroom, grab a cup of coffee, say hi to your neighbor, check your emails, plan for your next meeting, off you go. You accomplished zero work, right?
Yep.
If you give your staff time that's dedicated, no meetings, no phone calls, everybody gets this time to do their work. They actually get the opportunity to dive deep into the content. And that's where you're going to get real innovation and real quality work. So there's a book by Johan Hari called Stolen Focus. And in that book, he talks about the idea that when you're in a state of deep work and you're distracted, it can take up to 23 minutes to get back to that state again. So now think about the leader who's like, I got a really important thing I got to put forward, or the researcher who's putting forward something. And next thing you know, they're getting a tap on the shoulder, quick phone call, a quick meeting. They're getting interrupted from that deep work state constantly. We need to allow space for people to do their jobs. That can look as simple as like a 2-hour window on a Wednesday, 10 to 12, no interruptions. See how that goes? Extend it. That's one thing I would think.
Okay.
A second thing, if you're up for it, for those that are billable, non-billable, you got a lot of those people in your
We
podcast
probably have a
pool
lot
that
of
are
non-billables. They're salespeople,
right,
so their billable comes at the end when it's all done and earned.
right. So billable, non-billable, by its very nature, non-billable carries no value, and we need to change the mindset on that. Because we can't. I had a leader come to me and say, I'd love to do more wellness stuff, or I'd love to do more things for my staff, but every time it's a non-billable, it costs me money. So whenever you don't do it, it costs you money. Just wait.
Mm.
Because when you're thinking, I'm going from billable to billable to billable, and you're pushing that, we need to shift it so that instead of non-billable, it's billable and renewable. Because that renewable time is the time that you use to research, to get yourself ready. It allows your mind to actually rest and regenerate so that you can get up for the next meeting. It allows you to support your team, to take the time you need to make sure that you're ready so that you can actually go crush it when you have your next billable, rather than just push, 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 right? And so by shifting your mindset and calling it a renewable, it actually allows you to find intention with that time. It's not time off. It's time to make sure that you're ready for your next billable.
Yeah, I was saying to someone just earlier that being renewable, right? I said recharge, same sort of thing. It doesn't mean sitting on a sofa vegging out. That's actually not recharging you in any way. That's just probably continuously draining you. Actually, recharging is actually plugging something in, which means doing something that brings energy towards you. So you're talking some of those things around a workplace, whether it's whether you're in a virtual workplace or you're all in person workplace, but it's having those hours where you're saying, you can work on this. I know Google has a certain percentage of hours they're supposed to focus on like other passion projects or something to keep them excited and keep them energized. There's nothing wrong with giving your employees, your teammates, those sort of things is what you're saying.
Yeah, 100%. And also just accepting the fact that there is going to be that hidden cost of the renewable time, non-billable time, whatever you want to call it. And so trying to maximize billables comes at its own expense, because people are going to burn out. They're going to continually push, and they're not going to have the energy they need to make it through to be able to be ready for that next meeting. You talked about the idea of like taking rest and not just like sitting on the couch and relaxing. And I think rest from a personal standpoint is one of the keys for people to be sustainable moving forward. And so if you're talking about like a personal wellness, the idea of actual rest, I'm not talking sleep, but how many times do you go home and you like made it through the day, grab some food, lay on the couch, Netflix on, and you're scrolling your social media, right? And it's just like your doomsday scroll. You wake up from that, or you finish that, and you don't feel rested, right?
Right.
The reality is like a lot of people don't take rest throughout their week. They don't plan for rest. And I'm talking about things that you do that bring energy to you. Maybe that's your activity, that's your sport, that's your gardening, go read a book, take a walk, whatever it is that actually brings you energy, because that's what's going to get you back in that state. I'll give you a quick stat. It's from the Canadian Center for the Occupational Health and Safety. And it says that fatigue is a major factor in the workforce, and it affects up to 43% of workers in Canada. Right. And now I could probably tell you, like, I could tell you that anyway. People are fatigued all over the place. But the big stat comes when you look at fatigued workers are 70% less productive than those who are not. So if you're not taking time for rest and you're like, I just got to push through, I got to push through, I got to keep working, I got to get this done. Okay. But you're going to be working at 70% less productivity than if you were to step back, rest, recharge, and come at it with a fresh mind.
I love that. Right. Rest, as you say, and I'm putting quotes around it as I say it. Our audience can't see me. Rest, right, doesn't mean, like you said, put on Netflix and scroll on your phone through social media. That's not resting, right? That's just distracting yourself to pass time. Resting is actually going to be refilling yourself with energy. Now, some people, yeah, maybe that rest is I need to take a nap. Okay. But you're giving other examples. Maybe that rest is I need to pick up a good book because it's going to fill me with energy to learn from it, or go on that murder mystery trail if that's the kind of book I want to read. Or to me, I mean, and it sounds silly, I mean, Bob has been making fun of me now that I live in Florida, that I play pickleball. But I got to tell you, It doesn't matter how sweaty I get, how out of breath I get playing it. When I'm walking home from playing pickleball, I feel more energized than before I even got there, before I put out all the energy that comes to it, because that's rest. I've turned my brain off from work and then brought energy into my body by doing something. Folks, there is something out there for you to be doing. All right. We've been talking with Stephen Langer, and you can connect with him on LinkedIn. Send them a little message. Say, heard John Wynn may give, right? He'll accept, he'll connect with you in that situation. You can also go to his website, wellbydesign.ca. Now, Stephen, the wellness conversation, we could be here for days. We can make this the longest podcast ever and probably never stop and keep going and make, some of those other podcasts, go, wow, look how long. I don't want to do that though. Wrap it up for me. If there's something you want to reiterate or something you did not bring up yet, because I didn't ask a question that brought to it that our audience needs to hear about their own personal wellness or being a leader and bringing organizational wellness to their teams, whatever it is, take us home with something wellness that you want to make sure they absolutely hear today.
Cool. Yeah, absolutely. I'll leave you with a quote, and it's an old proverb, and it says, don't wait until you're thirsty to dig your well. And the reason that is such an impressive quote is because how often do we think, I got this, just like I did? How often do we think I got to push through, or after I finish that project, then maybe, or, the next thing? But if you wait until you're thirsty to dig your well, you're not going to have any water. And if you wait until you're burnt out to start caring for yourself or to start taking care of your team in your organization, it's going to be too late. So often we focus on revenue and strategy and all of the things that move our company forward. But if your team isn't there to do it with you, if the foundation, your people, are burning out, then they're not going to be able to move that forward for you. It is so important that we take care of ourselves along the way.
Love it. What a great finish to it. Folks, I'm looking for a new co-host. I don't know if I'm letting Bob back. All right, I'll probably let Bob back. But if you are interested in being that co-host, come tell me. Let me know. Come join us in our Facebook group, because we want to know in the Win, Make, Give group, what is your Dairy Queen guilty pleasure? What's the Blizzard flavor you're going to order? because Steve and I want to really know. We know Bob's probably just boring vanilla because Bob thinks everything is better with vanilla. So until our next episode, folks, as always, do good.